In terms of going hard, you should be going hard on every body part, and chest is no exception. I try and push for failure pretty much every single set, or at least get close to it, just to ensure that I'm doing enough. Because after all, if you're going to failure and beyond, and you know that you are doing something right. Training principles for the chest are relatively easy because your chest makes it so. For example, whenever you are doing press, since you're working against gravity, the hardest position is actually the lengthened position, or the most stretched out position, which we know causes more hypertrophy overall. So almost every single chest movement is going to be working for your advantage in terms of muscle growth. So I like to have a heavy compound exercise to start with the chest, so then go into something like a machine, and then a fly for more of that single joint type of deal. Because after all, when you're doing a compound lift, like a bench press of any sort, you're gonna be using the elbow joint and the shoulder joint in conjunction in order to push the weight off. This is gonna be using the tricep, but also the chest to a large degree. And when picking a proper chest intro exercise or a compound lift, I like to pick something that's more of an incline, because an incline is going to be hitting more of your chest overall. And the higher up you actually get on that incline curve, the more emphasis it's going to shift into the clavicular head, or the upper portion of the chest as a whole. You're still going to be getting everything. And I think that most people kind of want this upper clavicular head growth over, the lower portion and stuff, just because it's more aesthetic. But that's up to you to decide. But that's do with that information what you will. That the higher up the incline, the more upwards all the way up to the front delt that you're going to be getting, or the deltoids as a whole. Let's get into the first set here. I do love this variation of a chest press. The barbell variation is iconic, of course, though I wish that I could bring down the pad a little bit, because the further, like the 15 to 30 degrees, I think that's really the sweet spot. Since then you're hitting all of the chest as a whole, but you're actually specializing in the upper chest more than the others. Since the chest is the most difficult in the lengthened or lowered position most of the time, I think that's a good idea to capitalize on that fact. So if I had access, I don't right now, but if I had access to a cambered bar, like the flattened W bar, then I would definitely be doing that, because that's going to increase the range of motion even further. You could also do something like a 30 to 45 degree to 15 degree incline dumbbell bench press as well, because then each hand is working in isolation of itself. So you can go much lower, and then instead of you your body having to conform around the exercise is more so conforming around your specific anatomical needs. One more. Kind of a downside with doing a barbell press without a spotter is it's a little dangerous. That's why I'd prefer something like dumbbells where you can bail easily, or a Smith machine. But a barbell definitely comes into play. And the way that I kind of sanction it off is dumbbells are great for the reasons I previously mentioned, where it's more dynamic. Smith machine is really great because you're so stable, and whenever you're more stable, you can automatically produce more power and strength and force out of yourself. So that's great. And then a barbell is just a tried and true exercise, is a tried and true strength builder. There's classics for a reason. So I like to rotate through them every few weeks or so whenever they start to get stale. At least that's how my approach is going to be. Now, in terms of actual programming principles, in terms of volume and frequency for the chest, I believe that it's mostly the same as any other major muscle group. Like, for instance, you're going to want to be hitting around 15 to 20 sets a week, and then probably at least a 2 times a week frequency. I wouldn't go more than 3 times a week frequency. And the way I kind of sanction off this idea is the more you actually use the body parts, I think it can be trained more frequently. So for instance, you're always using your shoulders, you're always using your calves because you're walking on them, you're always using your forearms because you're gripping stuff. And therefore, since they're used more, they can take more of a beating, versus how many times are you pushing off something with force off of your body or pulling something back? Not as often, So I think that for that reason, you should be training your chest and your back and your legs and stuff a little bit less frequency, with less frequency than body parts like maybe your abs, your calves, your forearms, your shoulders, and stuff like that. So then, of course, volume, the amount of volume per week it's kind of like an average dose. You can kind of play around with it and find what feels best for you. But I do like the progression of slowly ramping up sets in terms of over the course of your weeks of your program, and trying to overreach a little bit. So really go into that breaking point, but then stopping right before overtraining, because then it's really going to force your body to grow. And then going back down is a good idea. And in terms of going hard, you should be going hard on every body part, and chest is no exception. I try and push for failure pretty much every single set, or at least get close to it, just to ensure that I'm doing enough. Because after all, if you're going to failure and beyond, then you know that you are doing something right. You know that you're growing, especially if you get a pump and you're feeling tired and stuff. Because a lot of people, they talk about a pump or a burn is not doing anything for growth. But I think if you're not getting that, then you're probably doing something wrong. A great way to find a fantastic exercise for the chest is to look at the functions of the chest. So one of the primary functions is shoulder abduction. So bringing the shoulder and the humerus closer to the midline of the body. So if you can have an exercise doing that, like on this one, it converges up to the top. That's going to be working your chest to a much larger degree. I mean, you try a fly movement, or you could just try bringing your arm across your body, feel the contraction. It's an automatic contraction, and it's very concentrated. So you can try that when you're looking for a particular chest movement that's right for you. You could just try and play around with different variations. You could do some different machines, some dumbbell variations, a barbell, a Smith machine, whatever it may be, and just see how it's working your chest. By choosing a different angle where you are doing your chest fly, you can actually be targeting different areas of the chest, and it all has to do with which directions the fibers go. So if you are doing straight on like this with the free motion cable machine or with any fly variation, you're gonna be kind of getting like the whole like mid chest area, versus when you go low to high, you're gonna be getting more upper chest because of how you are doing adduction of the arm in relation to how the fibers insert and originate along the chest. And then if you are doing low or high to low, you're gonna be getting more of the lower chest. And I'm actually gonna be doing that today, since the other two exercises were an incline variation. So I was getting more of the upper chest just based on how my pressing angle was. So I'm gonna get more of the lower chest to kind of balance it all out. And then with this, you really want to get that deep stretch, then explode at the bottom. And I like to cross my arms at the very bottom in order to ensure that peak contraction like I was talking about earlier. I always tend to include a fly variation of some sort, whether it be a dumbbell, a machine, a cable, etc., into my chest routine, because when you're doing pressing movements, aka compound movements that are using the shoulder and the elbow joint, you're going to be automatically involving more muscles, which is going to increase the stimulus to fatigue ratio just naturally, natively, in fact. Versus when you are doing fly variation, which is just working with the shoulder joint, it is going to take the tricep out of it, which is responsible for elbow extension. It's going to remove that whole component, and therefore the stimulus is very high, but the fatigue, on the other hand, is very low. So it's great to do at the end of the move of a lift in order to crank out a little bit more of extra chest stimulus and volume without actually messing with your recovery too much. And I think that's the name of the game and the real benefit to fly variations. I also feel like it's very safe to go to failure on a fly movement just because the fatigue is very, very low. It's something that you can just go balls to the wall on and not worry about. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's little chest workout. It's kind of a minimalist approach to chest training. You know, and I don't think that you have to get like way more complex or way more sophisticated, because honestly, the basics are what counts. The basics are what is going to get you very far, and anything else is just going to be kind of like more of a fun factor, in my opinion. We did 9 sets for this chest workout, and I think that that should be on the upper range of where you probably want to be at, kind of like that upper range. Because if you do 9 sets on day 1 and then 9 sets on day 2 of the week, you get 18 sets, which is a lot to recover from. So you can kind of back off or increase based off of how you feel. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you later.